Donald Trump's administration is preparing new additional sanctions targeting key sectors of the Russian economy. They could be applied if Vladimir Putin fails to end the war against Ukraine. US officials told European partners they support using frozen Russian assets to purchase American weapons for Kyiv. Washington has also held internal talks regarding assets held in the United States. According to the sources cited by Reuters, Trump may pause for a few weeks to assess Russia's reaction to already announced sanctions against Lukoil and Rosneft. Additional measures could target Russia's banking sector and oil infrastructure. Last week, Ukrainian officials proposed new sanctions, including cutting all Russian banks off from the US dollar system. It is unclear, however, how seriously these proposals are being considered. Meanwhile, NATO Secretary-General Mark Rutte said that Putin is running out of resources to continue the war against Ukraine. According to Rutte, the situation on the front lines shows that Russia's strategy is failing and the cost of even minor advances is extremely high for Moscow.
In Ukraine, Putin is gaining little ground on the battlefield. And where there are marginal gains, they are coming at a huge price. Hundreds of thousands of Russians are dying for Putin's deluded aggression. Ukraine continues defending itself bravely, and our support to them is working. The truth is that Putin is running out of money, troops and ideas. President Trump said it very well. They should stop where they are now. And now is the right time to increase the pressure on Russia, so we can finally get a fair and a just peace for Ukraine.
NATO Secretary-General Mark Rutte welcomed recent announcement from European allies and Canada on additional military aid to Ukraine, as well as the approval of the 19th sanctions package against Russia. Meanwhile, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said the new sanctions are already having an impact. Russia may downplay their effect, but according to Zelensky, the measures are hitting Moscow hardest.
Today, everyone, absolutely everyone, in the coalition of the willing agreed that this is exactly how we should continue to apply pressure on Russian oil, on Russia's oil companies, on terminals, on the fleet of Russian tankers, and on the aggressor's entire infrastructure. Today, we agreed on decisions that can help us significantly. For now, we will not disclose all the details publicly, so it will be harder for Putin. And although the Russians have tried to send a message to the world that sanctions supposedly do not affect their economy, everyone can see queues at gas stations in Russia, bankrupt regional authorities, and a deficit in Russia's federal budget. Sanctions are one of the most painful things for Putin, personally for him.
US sanctions are already showing results. The value of Rosneft and Lukoil shares has dropped by $5.2 billion, according to the Moscow Times. Over 2 days, October 23rd and 24th, the combined market capitalization of the companies fell by 424 billion rubles. Rosneft shares dropped 3%, losing $1.560 billion, while Lukoil shares plunged 7.2%, costing $3.660 billion. The US sanctions hit Lukoil's owner, Russia's richest billionaire Vagit Alekperov, who lost 83 billion rubles, about $1 billion, in just 2 days. The impact is not limited to Russia. Reuters reports that Serbia's only refinery is on the verge of shutting down due to the US restrictions. US sanctions on NIS blocked Serbia's oil group from receiving a tanker of crude oil. This shipment could have brought time for the country's only refinery, which risks shutting down without new supplies. Sources say the Pančeva refinery has only a few days before it may have to halt production. Meanwhile, India has already secured crude oil from the Middle East and the US. Indian company Reliance Industries Limited bought several grades from Saudi Arabia, Iraq, Qatar and the US. Deliveries are expected in December or January, Bloomberg reports. At the same time, Russian officials continue to claim that the sanctions are not effective. Kremlin special envoy Kirill Dmitriev told Fox News that US pressure on Moscow will not work.
Russian President Vladimir Putin said that no pressure on Russia will work. And frankly, we do not believe these sanctions will have a significant impact on the Russian economy, because global oil prices will rise, and Russia will simply sell fewer gallons of oil at higher prices.
European countries say they are ready, if needed, to deploy troops to Ukraine as early as 2026. France and the United Kingdom have already declared such intentions. The Chief of Staff of the French Army, Pierre Schill, said France is prepared to deploy forces as part of security guarantees for Ukraine. He made the statement during a Defense Committee hearing in France's National Assembly. France says its army is ready to respond to multiple threats at once, including a possible deployment in Ukraine, according to Army Chief Pierre Schill. Meanwhile, the UK is preparing to send troops if Kyiv and Moscow reach a peace deal. Defense Secretary John Gilly said British forces would help secure Ukraine's air and sea space and train its military, provided Russia ends its full-scale war.
Therefore, since the President of the United States is leading efforts to achieve peace here in Europe, we are ready to lead the work to secure it in the long term. As for our armed forces, I am already reviewing readiness levels and accelerating the allocation of millions of pounds sterling to prepare for a possible deployment to Ukraine.
Any potential deployment of Western troops in Ukraine, if a ceasefire or a peace deal is reached, would be coordinated by the coalition of willing, led by United Kingdom and France. The issue of supplying Tomahawk missiles to Ukraine is still open. This was confirmed by NATO Secretary-General Mark Rutte and UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer after a meeting of the coalition of the willing in London. Rutte said each ally decided independently on providing specific types of weapons, but Trump is still considered the Tomahawk request. He added that Ukraine has the right to strike inside Russia to defend itself. Prime Minister Starmer confirmed that talks with Trump are ongoing as Europe tries to convince the US to supply Ukraine with long-range missiles.
And here we have the coalition of the willing. Today you had the EU yesterday, but we are all working with President Trump, and therefore we are all working as one wider coalition here in relation to the support we need to put in for Ukraine. On missiles, we've put in more missiles from the UK in recent days and weeks. And pushing the case for long range. It is really important that we do have long range, and those discussions are ongoing.
US President Donald Trump said he will discuss Russia's war against Ukraine with Chinese leader Xi Jinping during their upcoming meeting. He made the remarks while speaking to the press, highlighting the importance of dialogue between the two countries. Trump expressed hope that China would assist the US in addressing the conflict and help explore ways to bring the war to an end. He also noted that he has a good personal relations with the Chinese leader, which, in his view, could help facilitate negotiations and promote cooperation on a peace process.
Put very big sanctions on Russia. I think those sanctions are going to be, they're very biting, they're very strong. But I'd like to see China help us out. I have a good relationship with, as you know, President Xi. Very good. We're going to be meeting. We'll have a good meeting. I'm pretty sure we're going to have a great meeting, maybe a great meeting. But I think we're going to do some good business. One of the things we'll talk about is the Russia-Ukraine. They're killing 7,000 people a week, soldiers, mostly soldiers, and we'll certainly be talking about that. He'd like to see that end too.
That's it for now. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel and leave your comments below.